thing that when we study this kind of countries, I think it's kind of very challenging, but very interesting as well, because this country is so small, and then we have like many difficulties across each countries, and then we try to find the structures and non-structures that we like see that it's going to be some difficulty for this country to develop or to use some the advance in this Asian economy as benefits. The only point that I'm going to make is that we should just like consider supply and demand things. Suppose that we want to leverage we want to exploit the Asian growth. Like we should look at what Asians needs. You know, like you try to cooperate with me, for example, but you don't have anything I need, so I have to trade with you, this kind of thing. So I would, for example, the trade and the tourism or those kind of things, I would consider what, as Asian developed, what would they need, and what would this Pacific country will have. And then we're gonna set the plan or to like develop on those kind of sectors. And after that, we can like increase the cooperation between Pacifics and Asians more. And that's only one point that I would have. But it's just like the other is going to be just details on those kind of. Okay, I'm going to open the floor for the questions and comments.
So may I go again, because I put the number in my slide. So in the slide you show this country. Anyone have ever heard about this country before? Because my friend went there and she said that is the best place for diving in the world. So you might visit this kind of the island, beautiful islands, and put this number, because the research show us that the GDP per capita is about 40,000. So I put this with Thailand. It's almost about Thailand right now. GDP per capita is kind of much higher than other Asian countries and lower than Brunei. So my question is that when you said this country might need to grow, we'll see. So do they agree with that? Because GDP per capita is much higher right now, higher than our Asian countries. So that's my question. Thank you.
Brian?
I'm trying to remember my Pacific geography. Did you also look at some of those countries that are still colonial outposts? I was thinking Tahiti, and then some of the other ones as well. Did you look at those in comparison for your analysis at all?
I think I'll take one more question and then give the stage back to Matthias. Have any questions?
I was wondering how did you come across many difficulties with Timor-Leste, beyond the fact that they were a part of Indonesia in recent history, but also their oil exports, because from what I'm aware, most databases that institutions use to measure Timor-Leste oil exports either dramatically overestimate their exports or dramatically underreported because of the way that they exported with Australia's help.
I think that should be all. Then I'm going to give this 2-3 minutes left for Matthias to respond to those comments and questions.
Thank you very much for the interest and for the excellent questions. First question is very good. What Asians need actually, and so on the other hand, is the question what can the Pacific offer? And if you take the example of Fiji, they have two products that are apparently very successful. One is Fiji Water. Most of you have heard about this. The second one is a cosmetic line that apparently a lot of women use. I wasn't aware of this one. But I think the two examples show that, I mean, water, why does the water need to come from Fiji? It's also about marketing and also for cosmetics. I think it needs an innovative marketing scheme, and then you also need to be lucky to hit certain markets. And so I think it's difficult to say for us now what could be the successful products. I think it needs a lot of market studies and also the right products, a little bit also to be at the right place at the right time. The second question about Palau, very good, but Palau is a very small country in terms of population, and of course they have a high GDP per capita, that's true. However, the growth was not very high. If you look here at the growth rate over the last 10 years, it was negative even. So, of course, Palau is a rich country, so I mean, but we just want to make sure that even these richer countries have some positive perspective into the future. Colonial outposts, it's always difficult to compare these colonial outposts to the Pacific countries because obviously they get a lot of support and aid from their home countries, but we try to compare some of the success factors of these countries or these economies with the Pacific. We have a case study also on Okinawa to see what lessons can be learned from this case.
Samoa is a big exporter of NFL players to the US. Like 7 or 8 of them.
I think there's some sumo wrestlers too.
Don't know about that.
Finally, Timo, that's a very, very good question. You have a very deep knowledge. I'm very impressed. We try to, as best as we could, work with mirror statistics, so to look at what the exporter and the importers report and reconcile them. We're also working with our colleagues at ADB and also with colleagues in the countries, so we try to really control for these possible omissions. Yeah, thank you. But thank you very much for all the excellent questions.
All right. Please give an applause for our presentations. Let me conclude this afternoon's seminar just a little bit. We start from the global financial crisis or global crisis, and we see that amid of this crisis, we see the growth and some collaboration in the Asian countries. We have a good growth, and that ends on the tracking. We have a trend on corporations, and besides that trend of corporation, we see some potential benefits, potential risk, and many challenges ahead of us. And anyway, we see this good opportunity, we find a way to cooperate to each other. And at the end, just like, okay, some say, we say that we just aim for the star, and if we fail, we just fall on the moon. So that's all the story of this afternoon. And I give the stage back to our MC, Jan.
All right, so finally, let me invite Professor Sakon Varanyiwatana to give closing remarks.
Thank you very much. I don't think I need to say anything, because I think the chairperson already said what in my mind. And for the closing remark, I have to thank you again for the presentation that we have for the speakers, and also have to thank you to discuss that. Even though we let you know very just a very short period that we could have this session, but I think everything is out beyond my expectation, and we hopefully that we're going to continue our collaboration, and we have the further cooperation between Thammasat, the university, and the AUVI in the future. Thank you again. And before we end the session, to show our appreciation and our thank you for participating in this session, the department, the faculty has a small token we'd like to give to all the delegate from ADBI.